Hello and welcome to the Grant Method by Tao Learning. In this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to break down building a grant, and this can go for any category of grant you might be seeking. And here are the different sections of the G.R.A.N.T, putting that grant together. A very easy method for you to memorize so you can create effective grants. So we're going to start out talking about the G. That's gauging. So when you gauge, you want to step back and just assess everything that's happening. First and foremost, make sure that your organization is qualified for the grant. There are many stipulations and rules with each grant. Don't get too excited until you check all rules and all criteria. There's plenty of other grants out there, and if this one doesn't align well with your organization, or if the available staff isn't there, then make sure to read over every aspect of the eligibility for your company. You also want to have key personnel. Aside from the organizational abilities, you also want to have the right experts on staff as your second most important element of your implementation. Either find people on staff to be the key personnel or conduct an outreach program to bring appropriate new staff on board to make this dream a reality. When looking at your company expertise, while key personnel is great, you actually need an entire team and a style of a company that is qualified. Don't get a grant for a medical research when your company is actually an IT firm. Then vice versa. Don't get an IT grant focused on medical if all you really know how to do is actual medical practice. Qualify the grant so it aligns well with the existing expertise in your organization before proceeding. And then a very crucial aspect that people miss is the dates and the deadlines. There are basic dates outlined on every single grant you need to follow. In addition, you need to set your own dates and deadlines for each section of the grant. There are basic dates outlined on the grant you need to follow. In addition, you need to set your own dates and deadlines for each section of the grant. We do not suggest more than 3 days total on each section. And when we speak about sections, we're speaking about each of the letters of this, the G, the R, the A, the N, and the T. So don't have more than 3 days per section and have no more than 2 staff working on it on the design of the proposal. So you should have a maximum of 15 days, and the national average is about 40 hours per proposal. And in our organization, we're very streamlined, so we actually move a lot faster than that. You then want to see your resources available. This is still all part of the gauge process. When you're gauging a grant, you want to do a deeper look into your organization to learn about the resources available, while you also do a deeper search online for the amazing grant research tools available. There are many websites available such as grants.gov, grantwatch.com, FDO, Grant Forward, and there's just so many more. Your own community will have a foundation that may also match your grant-seeking efforts. Then you can also find volunteers with Volunteer Match, internships.com, Join Handshake, and by immersing in your community. People love helping charity, so don't feel like you have to do all of this on your own. Next, we want to talk about the R, the research. If you have accurately gauged the grant and you've aligned an opportunity that you do believe that is good for you, then you want to then know the company, your own company. You want to conduct a discovery into your own company, as you most likely have many branches and departments you're unfamiliar with. The more departments you learn about, become more opportunities for you to utilize and harmonize your grant collaboration efforts. Make it an effort to at least know the basic outline of all the departments available in your organization. You don't have to know really deep down into them, but know the basic summary of what that department does. And then you also want to listen to the funding agency. If you have gauged this proposal, this request for proposal, and they have very clear outlines of what they're looking for. Most funding agencies have very clear ideas of the concepts they're interested in funding. Make sure you read the funding paper very thoroughly to see if your company aligns. Don't let your own thoughts cloud your ability to read in this moment. Clear your mind and surrender to the idea that the funding house gets to decide where those funds go, and don't push your idea or push your agenda onto them. Only find opportunities that are already in harmony, because trust me, they are out there. So you want to find similar programs. Surprising, there's many similar grants that you can actually submit the exact same paperwork to. Various funding agencies actually encourage you to research for other grants to help make sure that your program is successful. Don't be shy in letting each organization know of your potential other funders or potential other funding houses or RFPs that you're researching. This is actually beneficial. It's not detrimental to your program's success. And what that means is if you have 5 proposals that you're submitting to for the exact same project, each of those funders will be excited that you're utilizing your resources as best as possible and that they don't have to bear the burden of the full funding for one project because they simply want to see things complete. And then you also, in your research phase, you want to read every document. I can't emphasize this enough. Sometimes a grant can have 300 pages. Yes, 300. Don't skip out on all these documents. Have your team read things thoroughly and only take on grants as big as you're willing to commit 100% into reading everything. Maybe you're only ready for a tiny grant that's only like 3 pages. So if that's all you're willing to commit to in your research efforts, then you have to be at peace with that's the size of grant that you can get. Now, if you're ready to sit down over a few weeks or immerse 40, 80 hours into this and really immerse deeply, that's when you can gather a lot larger grant. But be ready for all that paperwork that you're going to have to read and enjoy that process. You then want to have a study implementation area. Don't be greedy in your concept. Find other organizations in your community or even globally that want to see the same vision come true. Take the time to think about how other organizations can play a key part in the success. When you did that research earlier, you also saw the other departments in your own company, so you might even collaborate with other departments for this one grant or RFP. Perhaps you can subaward a portion of the grant to one of the other departments, so you don't have to take on that burden 100% yourself. You can even approach them later for an endorsement where they'll give you access to their facility, their tools, or even their staff. So the world is your oyster. When you utilize the entire community to the best of your ability, it strengthens the program and reduces the stress and responsibility upon your own shoulders. So that wraps up everything we have with research, and we want to move on to the A, which is assemble. So when you assemble the grant, you want to gather all of those resources. I personally really enjoy using SharePoint, and we also use Dynamics 365 Nonprofit Accelerator inside our organization. So do whatever you need to do, but stay extremely organized. There's going to be a lot of paperwork, there's going to be a lot of files, and it is just so crucial to your success to have an amazing organization method. Put all your files and folders in tidy areas and treat the info as if you're going to hand it off to a complete other team without talking to them at all about how to use your files. This is crucial if you plan on duplicating your efforts in the future with a grant system instead of just a one-off grant award. You also want to seek commitment letters. This is part of your assembling process. I know you don't feel ready at this point, but trust me, you are. You've already gauged, you've already researched, and now we need to start bringing a team on board that believe in this vision and that are going to stand behind you. So you can now ask qualified key personnel for actual letters of commitment that they're going to join you once the program is funded. These can be doctors, scientists, research analysts. You could be partnering with other institutions, the other departments. But regardless who it is, you actually need them to sign off on commitment letters, and you need to put that inside of your package that you're sending back out for this proposal. You usually need to turn these into the funding house, so it's pointless to move forward unless you have some members who are going to trust this enough to put it into writing at this point. And you can also get endorsement letters. Endorsements are a little bit different than commitment letters. So let's find organizations now who are excited for the future and who will join you without too many questions or worry, but bring value to the table. Remember, we're seeking those who have faith and who will be the reason you're successful, instead of those who are skeptical and that are going to demean your efforts. This could be corporations, government bodies, competitors even, other schools, and even other foundations who will match your funding. And then you want to create a timeline. In your assembly process, that timeline is going to hold everything together. It's going to create deadlines for you. Maybe you're using a waterfall or agile method of management. It doesn't matter, but you do need a timeline. So get your paperwork organized in chronological order with a systematic approach to the success. Create a minimum of a 5-year timeline by thinking of the end goal. Now this is for a big grant, you're going to want that 5-year timeline minimum. And you want to work your way backwards from the present moment all the way back to filling out all that paperwork to then achieve the goal. So you even want to think about 20 years in the future and think, how can this money today be useful that far down the road? And then assemble all your paperwork in the right order to achieve that goal. We also use what's called the ROAR method. So instead of just chaotically putting out your ideas, we actually use this table and this chart, which breaks down that assembly really easily for you. So in the response area, you want to write down the main question asked from the funding house that you're going to answer. I mean, when you read those 300 pages, 100 pages, however many they sent to you in the proposal or in their request for a proposal, you're going to see that they really only have one question they want answered. Maybe they have too many sick people in developing nations. And the response would be, how do we fix the sick people in developing nations? It really is that simple. And they could have $20-50 million aligned just for that one mission. So write that response down here and make it very, very simple so the future people on your team don't have to read those 100 pages. They can just go right here and see that. And then you want objectives. Sometimes they'll outline objectives for you, and they'll say, you have to have a hospital, you have to do blood transfusions, or you have to have an education center, and it has to be able to hold 10,000 people in it. Whatever those objectives are, whether it's outlined in the RFP or whether you come up with it on your own, you want to be able to conceptualize and use think tank sessions within your group to come up with the objectives that you know that you need to hit that are going to answer that response. And then we have listed 3 here on this chart, but you could have 5, you could have 8, you could just have one objective. It really depends on how big your project is. So answer, what goals will you hit to achieve the response that are measurable and tangible? They have to be able to be measured. You can't have emotion or perspective into if you hit that or not. You have to be able to measure that. And then under each objective, we have 3 lines there too. And again, you can have 5, you can have 1, you can have 12, but you want to have activities underneath each objective. So you have your objective, which is really your end goal, and then you want to break that end goal down into actual activities that you're going to do. So design activities to fulfill your objectives. Break things down small enough so that the activities that you do don't feel overwhelming, yet you still can guarantee the success of them. So each objective is going to have its own, and then you can departmentalize this very easily to achieve very, very big goals. So now that you have all your activities lined out, each activity is going to need specific resources, tools, and facilities, staff, a whole assortment of things to achieve that activity. So note the company resources available or the items you're going to purchase and use for the activities for the corresponding activity and then the corresponding objective. So it's a left to right chart that you fill out, and this becomes the core piece of your entire model after you assemble everything. And just with this one little piece of paper, you're going to start getting excited at how you can put together $20 million grants, $20 million RFPs very easily using this method. And then we want to move on to the N. On the N, that's about narrating. It is so crucial to have a narrative when you're presenting this back to the officer in charge or the funding house, whoever is accepting this. They need to see that you're writing a story to them. So paint an entire picture. Even though this is very serious, you get to have fun now. Use the ROAR method and assemble all the notes, and then sit down with a creative team to paint a wonderful picture of the program. Think of all the senses when you do this. What's it going to look like? What's it going to smell like, taste like, feel like? Use sensual skills to bring the narrative to life. Just stay in think mode and visualize this whole process. And if you could do that and spark an emotional attachment to the end goal that you're creating, then you and your own company are going to be successful because you now have excitement behind it. But also the person that you're presenting this to is going to be able to tactfully feel and touch, and their vision's just going to expand into the same that you have. So you want to dream in reality. Think of the future and what this can change so that life changes 20 years from now, 50 years from now. What can this money do for society, and how can you be a part of that? Do you have the resources and the team available to make that reality today? Are the funds available enough to make all of that come true? So make your dream small enough that it fits within the budget, but make it grand enough that it's exciting to invest into this vision. Keep notes on all of this and have fun challenging yourself while staying realistic as you take dream notes. And then you want to brand the vision. Coin a phrase for your entire program and treat it as if you will be putting that on billboards in the biggest cities all around the world. Think of your t-shirts, your commercials, and your end products. Come up with a title or a brand for the entire program. Set the tone and the slogan that will be the foundation of your entire narrative. Then write a beautiful narrative using all your notes and your branding and your slogans as your end goal. You can also seek deeper endorsements into this. You can share your narrative with multiple brands, governments, and partners to see who may be interested at this point in helping the dream come true. Remember before we got commitment letters, we got endorsements, but now that you have an actual narrative written, at this point, you can find much bigger partners that they can actually visualize your dream. So the more you talk all at once, the more likely you're going to gain traction. If you send this out to 50 different companies and tell them, I'm only going to partner with one or two, then they're going to get excited when they see that narrative and they're going to want to come on board and make this successful. So see your dream as a seedling, and that you must protect it and nurture it and bring the right nutrients on to make that successful. And then you want to start setting things in motion. Don't wait on your funding to get started. Go ahead and actually start the aspects of your project that require no budget at all, or that you already have staff on your team that can achieve. The best projects to fund are the ones that already exist without traction. You don't have to have the funding to create the traction. That traction can happen right within your own company, so that when the funder comes in and sees what you're doing, they don't feel like they're kickstarting things. They feel like they are just a catalyst in what you're already doing. This proves that you're going to do this project regardless if you got funding or not. Don't invest too much money or your time, but invest enough to allow creative freedom by your partners, volunteers, and interns to let the seedling mature a bit into a sapling. With minimal nourishment from the main company, your seedling can grow into a sapling that is rather resilient, and it'll ensure it's going to be well rooted by the time the funding agency comes and gives you an actual award. And that moves us into the T, which is hitting your target. So the target is very important. In our ROAR method that we talked about before, we were setting goals and visions, and you want to create everything with a tangible target. So you need to align your strategy. You need to use Gantt charts, fiscal analysis, enterprise resource planning, DevOps tools, and you need to use all of that to create a beautiful outline with aspects that are waterfall based and also aspects that are incubator based using agile methods. You need these for yourself, and they also are great to include in your fiscal approach, usually asked of you in the proposal. And then you want to do an outline of the future. I know we talked about that before and we visualized it, but you actually want to write that down. Create a 5-year or a 10-year timeline using our templates or some in your own organization, and make sure that they very clearly show the ethical approach and the fiscal approach to hit your goals. Go beyond your 5-year plan with a 50-year plan for the project. Sustainable programs that no longer need grant funding get the most attention and have the most resilience. So make sure that you're not relying 100% on that grant money to continue this program. It should be self-sufficient by the end of the entire program. And then you want to streamline your budget. A budget can be beautiful, it can be minimal, and it can magnetize your funders if put together with precision and artistic flow. Work with a fiscal strategist or bring one onto your team and use our examples that are colorful and minimal to put together a budget that uses your resources very wisely. Embrace audits, critique, and feedback from actual experts. Don't hide and shy away from that, because that's going to hone in and make your budget that much stronger, and it's going to enhance your own skills in putting budgets together in the future. You then also want to create metrics. Data science is the future. The number one job right now actually is data science. So learn the SMILE score by Tao Learning and learn other measurement tools to put into your proposal. Without tangible metrics, no funding house will desire to give you money. Use industry standard ways to measure your success and create a compelling outcome-focused approach that uses your budget wisely with sound tracking. After you do all of that, you then want to harmonize the narrative. Reapproach the narrative and tie in the long-term timeline. Look over the budget and the narrative together at the same time to ensure they both have the same goals and the same approach using the same budget. You'll then want to change your narrative or change your budget and continually revise those until they have a flow with each other. Add in the new partners that you've created through endorsements, and also reduce the asks on the budget where you may have creative alternative solutions. A grant narrative can constantly evolve and continue to gain partners and funding. Keep your narrative fresh and continue to send it out to new partners, new funding houses, and even your own staff to keep everyone on the same page and to keep the energy coming in the program. So that breaks down this beautiful grant method to achieve your goal, where you gauge, research, assemble, narrate, and hit targets. So I hope this has helped you. This is Matt Hackney with Tao Learning, and I hope to see you next time.